I figured it was time I rip off the Band-Aid and tell you guys I'm expecting. And by expecting, I mean a podcast, not a baby, because I can barely take care of myself. Who are we kidding? But my podcast is going to be my first baby. And before you say anything about, oh my God, it's another bitch with a podcast, arrest me. I decided I wanted to start this because all my life I have kind of felt like the black sheep and just felt like I was a bit different. And until I started traveling, I didn't really meet my people and feel like I had a place, like completely like fit in somewhere. And it's just really opened my eyes to the fact that I just really want to continue living this unconventional pathway that I want to. Like, I want to work for myself. I'm working on building business, all these ideas I have, and I just really want to keep going on them. And like, it's my mission to help people, inspire people, educate people that there's more out there. You don't have to just settle for this life you think you need to take, or this pathway you feel like you need to take. Like, there's so many other avenues and pathways you can go about living your life, whatever, in 2025, almost 2026. And so I figured I decided I wanted to start this project to just interview a bunch of my friends who have done unconventional things with their life. I feel like in America, it's very normal to just graduate high school. And then if you can afford it, obviously this is not for everyone because there's a huge privilege to being able to go to university and take out student loans, whatever it may be. But the traditional pathway is graduate high school, if you can, go to university, and then from there, either get your master's or start a 9-to-5 teaching, firefighter, whatever job may be, and just kind of stick to the same job and that pathway the rest of your life. And for me, I've just never had something that's really drawn me and called me. I'm a very multi-passionate person, and I love working with kids. I love being creative. I love content creation. I love videography. I also love helping people. I love therapy. I love psychology. I just can never decide what to do because I want to do everything and anything at the same time. I've also tried to be a personal trainer and then studied that, decided it wasn't for me, stopped halfway through studying health coaching, studied that, still unsure what I'm going to do with that. Want to be a yoga teacher, got my degree in public health. Have I used anything with that? No, not necessarily. So I've just kind of always been the person that wanting to try and learn and do new things and basically have multiple different passions and go about living that way. And I have so many friends who have done the same and kind of followed an unconventional pathway for the standards of America. I feel like in Europe and other places, it is a lot more common to take gap years and go backpacking, go traveling, whatever it may be. Whereas in the States, that's very uncommon. And when I did it, everyone's like, what the hell? And even when I go back, they're like baffled just by the stories I have and things, whatever. And so I just figured I wanted to start kind of documenting, changing my ring light. Why do I feel like I look fucking... I really don't like how I look right now, but we're just posting this anyway because I've been saying I'm going to do this for weeks. And have I? No. So essentially, I'm going to kind of share my story in this podcast because I figured before I started even interviewing friends and interviewing people, I should share a little bit about myself and my own story. But yeah, my friends essentially have inspired me to start this podcast because I'm just so inspired by everyone's stories. Like, I have friends who are all over the world, who moved across the world by themselves at 18, 19 to a country where they don't even speak the same language, who have started their own businesses, who have gone solo traveling throughout the world, who have literally done incredible and amazing things. And I just think it's so cool. And I just want to kind of be the voice of reason to show others in their 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, whatever it may be, that there is more to life than the traditional conventional route. And you don't have to follow what everyone else tells you you should do just because that's what's safe and that's what's comfortable. If there is something and you feel like you are meant for more, then there are options to go about doing that. And so, yeah, that's kind of just why I wanted to start this podcast, just showcasing other people's inspiring stories and hopefully inspiring others in the process. I feel like my eyes look really wide right now. Whatever. So let's start from square one, my own story, which fucking hope my phone is... Sorry, I cuss a lot also. I hope my phone storage is going to hold up because she was at like 252 of 256 gigabytes earlier, and we're already at 4 minutes and 30 seconds for this video. Essentially, I graduated uni in 2021. And let me tell you a little bit about my university, / in America, we call it college, but everyone is always like, what's college? So I just say uni because the rest of the world calls it uni. So imagine this. I grew up this is vulnerable. I don't like being vulnerable. So if I get awkward and start making jokes, that's why. I, in high school, didn't feel like I fit in majority of high school and ended up just hanging out with my sister and my sister's friends. And they're still now some of my best friends to this day. Me and my sister are like 2 years apart and ended up having a better time in high school then. And then I went to university and like I was a lot more confident, like better version of myself, social. I wasn't a shy little girl that I once was in high school and whatever. Like I was not like that. And then decided to go to high school and a bunch of people I met or college, a bunch of people I met at college decided to rush a sorority, which if you don't know what that is essentially trying to join sororities and be parts of groups on campus. Like you kind of have to audition almost or like interview for it. And all of my friends got in except for me. I got rejected. My roommate didn't either at the time. And so, from someone who has always felt rejected growing up because I felt like a bit of an outcast because I was shy, to then go to university, feel like I've grown so much, and then be rejected by all of my peers, it really hurt, especially because all of my friends and everyone else around me got in and it wasn't me. And so I was like, what's wrong with me? Why don't these people like me? Like, blah, blah, blah. And it was also not even something I fully wanted in the first place. I was kind of doing it because everyone else was. And I was like, oh, this sounds fun. Why not? So then my second year, my best friend Haley in uni like dropped her sorority, whatever, and was like, I'll rush again with you. Like, I want to try to be in this other one. All of our friends were in that. And all my friends were like, do it again, Sydney. Like, you're going to get in. Like, you have all of us. So I was like, okay, fuck it. I'll do it again. So I decided to do it again. And second year in a row doing that, got rejected again. All my friends got in. Like, a couple of my friends that didn't get in the first year that I had met rushed the second year and all of them got in but me, and I was rooming with all of them as well. So it was really hard, and I know it sounds shallow like doing that, but like just to feel like you're rejected by all of your peers and all of your friends, and especially when you have that own wound of feeling rejected, it's really hard and like makes you feel like insecure and sad and like something's wrong with you. And I know there's nothing wrong with me now, and that was honestly such a blessing in disguise because after that happened, I separated a lot from that whole sort of lifestyle. And I really realized it wasn't even for me because a lot of the guys also in like the fraternity, semi-school, whatever, wouldn't talk to me because I wasn't in a sorority and like weren't interested in me. And I was like, this is all so shallow. And just all my friends that were in it, a lot of them ended up dropping out and were like, no, this isn't for me. Because like literally everyone was just complaining all the time and they just stayed in it for the status and whatever it may be. And I was like, okay, this wasn't even for me in the first place. This was actually the best thing that could have ever happened to me because I decided to put all the energy inwards and focus on the things that I was passionate about and wanted to do. And that's when I decided to essentially move abroad and get really into traveling. And so that's when I looked into programs to do that. And I got my international teaching license so I could go move to Spain and teach English. And that essentially wouldn't have happened had I been accepted to all those things and been living that lifestyle. So I decided after COVID, I was supposed to do a semester abroad in Spain, but COVID happened and that got canceled. But nevertheless, when I graduated uni, I decided I wanted to move to Spain anyway. So I had my international TEFL. I reached out to a family friend, Sierra, who told me all about it because she taught English in Thailand. And then I also got a life coach at the time as well to help me with the transition and change, who had moved over to Spain as well herself and started her own life coaching business. And I highly, highly, highly recommend coaching if you feel lost in business aspect, purpose, clarity, whatever it may be in your life. Coaches are amazing. Lauren, I still talk to this day, 5 years later, and she's an amazing human and I just highly recommend. And that really helped me with the transition, just having someone to talk to who had been through it and also to help me with mindset shifts and also help me make the big leap of moving countries to a place where I don't even speak the same language and just doing everything all by myself. So I decided to move over to Spain and I did so at the age of 21, and it was still kind of out of COVID, so things were a bit off. But when I went over there, I didn't speak Spanish at the time. I had taken 5 years in high school, but that was not good. Like, I did not know anything. So I was on a student visa, and essentially, like in Spain, you can do your auxiliaries. Oh my God, that NALCAP. You can do NALCAP and you can do CIEE, and there's a ton of programs you can do to teach English. But essentially, I missed the deadline when we were applying for them because I decided I was moving to Spain late in the game. So I looked into other ways to move, and I decided to become an au pair, which essentially, if you don't know what that is, I looked on aupairworld.com, which was free at the time. I don't know if it's still free. And first family I found were interested in having me, and I FaceTimed them, and then I decided I'm going to fucking move to Spain in with them. And they're a little Catalan family outside of Barcelona, Spain. And so essentially I was a live-in nanny for them. Didn't have any living expenses, made 70 euros a week. Didn't have to pay for any of my food. They paid for all my food. Didn't have to pay for my transport into the city. Didn't have to pay rent, anything like that. So essentially I had no costs and I was making money. And then I also had a lot of money saved up. And also at that time, flights within Europe were so cheap because it was right out of COVID. So I was able to travel around Europe for literally like 20 euros for a weekend in Italy. And then hostels and everything as well were really cheap because, again, it was fresh out of COVID. So I fell in love with life over in, let me check my storage actually. I'm kind of nervous. Alrighty, we should be chilling. I'm at 242 out of 256 gigabytes. I essentially actually had a hard time when I first moved over to Spain. The first 5 months, I was like, what am I doing? Like, I didn't find, like, the thing is, when you move countries by yourself, it's going to take a huge adjustment period. And what is my hair? And a lot of people don't realize that, and it's not shown on socials, that it takes a while for you to adjust to being in a new place, to making friends, to making connections that are actually for you. And it took me about like 5 months to fully get that. I moved in October and I didn't meet my close friends until February, January. I had met some friends when I first moved there and I was really loving European lifestyle and like my au pair family, but I didn't like have that connections with others that I felt like were deeper. And so I was like, what am I doing? Like, I feel so lonely, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can be surrounded by people, but if it's not people that you feel connected with at a deeper level, then you're going to feel very lonely still. And that's something I've realized so much over the past few years, not to get deep. Anyway, decided, you know what, I'm going to stay. Like, I was having a hard time mentally the first months I was there. And then I dyed my hair brown also. I used to be blonde. I was blonde up until I moved to Spain, up until January that year. And then I dyed my hair brown. And I was like, fuck it, whatever, never look back. And I met some of my best friends that January or February. We all went to a picnic in the park in Barcelona. Like, it was called Au Pairs Barcelona. And there was like 20 of us. And then just a few of us like hit it off. My friends Emily and Elsie. And then there was like a group, like a bunch of groups, and then Aline, Adelaide, Kristen, like just Megs, all of us. And then we ended up like separating into a smaller group, did a picnic another time. We all just hit it off. And Emily and Elsie are some of my really close friends still to this day, same as Aline. I just met up with her again after 4 years in San Diego, which is insane. But Emily and Elsie, I just stayed with Emily in Sweden this summer for a month, and we did Croatia together. Love her. She's one of my best friends. And it just really shows that if you stick things out, sometimes it's a hard stretch at the beginning, but if you stick it out, things can turn out and we'll get better. And you just have to remember that when moving abroad or making a big transition like that. Anyway, I could get into all the gist of my au pair stories and crazy shit that went on my first year because, wow, there was a lot. But I'm going to save that for another time. This is just going to kind of be an overview of my story in this episode because I don't want to make this insanely long. So my first year essentially came to a close. I kind of had a rough end with my au pair family. Let's just say dad was extremely OCD, and me being ADHD ass who struggles with organization, forgetting that I left a coffee cup out or whatever, just caused constant little arguments and things. And I accidentally spilled coffee on the couch, and I cleaned it up with the wrong cleaning equipment, and it left a little bit of a stain, and I basically almost got kicked out. And it was this huge thing, and I like freaked out because I'm also a very anxious person, and that just threw me into a spiral. And I was like, oh my God, they hate me. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it was literally the month before it was almost over, and whatever, it was fine. But I got really close. Oh my God, actually I could share so many stories because the one child hated me, and I'm really good with kids, not to toot my own horn, but like, he didn't speak any English. Neither of them did. And as an au pair, you're supposed to teach English, and I was their first au pair. So if you know Catalan culture also, like, they're very family oriented. So there's not a lot of strangers kind of coming in, and he did not want anything to do with me. He didn't want to speak English. He didn't want anything. And he was also just a very difficult child in general. So it was really hard. But the 2-year-old, me and him were besties. I miss him so much every day. Like, he was my little bestie. I cried so hard saying goodbye. Cheeriest little boy ever, loved him. And we didn't even speak the same language. He didn't even know Spanish yet. He just knew Catalan, and we still had the best time ever together. So anyway, at the end of that year, I wasn't going to stay another year in Spain. They'd actually asked me to be the au pair again for them the second year, and I said no because I wasn't going to stay. And then sure enough, that summer, my friend Meg had met a boy and was like, debating staying another year also because she was like, I'm going to teach English another year. I love Spain, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, stay with me. And I ended up going on a really, really good date with this guy. And so attractive, so attractive. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Maybe I do stay another year. Maybe this is my sign. Like, what else am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. So I decided to renew my visa and stay another year, except this all got complicated when I dropped that said visa in the ocean in Croatia that went away. And at the time, Croatia wasn't in the EU. So that threw a fucking hole in plans. Whatever. We'll get into that again in another episode. But essentially, I stayed my second year and I taught English privately. So I had a bunch of friends from that year who au pair families weren't taking on another au pair again, but still wanted their kids to keep up with English. So they passed them on to me, and I essentially went around Barcelona teaching English to a bunch of kids. And then I also signed up with this agency who assigned me families as well. And I just would bounce around Barcelona teaching English to kids, adults, whatever it may be. And yeah, that was how it was. But it was very fun year. And thank God I decided to stay another year because I ended up meeting more of my best friends. Soph, I had met my first year in Barcelona and we got tacos and it was really awkward and whatever, but she was staying another year in Spain and we decided to like hang out randomly. And then we were like, we should go to the Pyrenees together. And it was like still kind of an awkward interaction, but I was like, you know what, fuck it, let's do it. So we decided to go to the Pyrenees together and we literally went to 3 different countries in the same weekend: Andorra, Spain, France, just sleeping in our car, watching the stars, and we hit it off and we just had the best time ever, skinny dipping, just having such a good time. And ever since then, we've been besties and it was just so fun. And then also my friend Emma, which I didn't meet Emma till Haley came in the picture. Whatever, I'll bring that in. So it was me, Soph, Megs, just all hanging out in Barcelona, all having a good ass time. And then come that January, my friend Elsie, who was my first year friend, like who I interview in my next podcast episode, actually, Elsie and Emily, so stay tuned. She left Barcelona and she was an au pair. So the family she left needed another au pair. And this is where my best friend Haley, who I was living with in Australia and have traveled around everywhere with, comes in and replaces her. And she puts me in contact with Haley and is like, hey, like Haley's moving to Spain. Like she might need some friends, like blah, blah, blah. Like you should hang out with her. And I was like, yeah. So we invited Haley over to a pregame one night and she just fit right in. Like it was like she was known us all forever. And we just had such a good time. And then from there, we literally were all inseparable. Me, Megs, Haley, Soph, we're just like always at Soph's apartment making sushi, just having girls' nights. It was just so fun, just having nights with espresso martinis. If you know, you know. Crazy stories, and it was just the best time ever. And then Emma as well. She introduced me to her friend Emma, who was like an au pair friend she had met, and Emma was another American girl and just so lovely. And we all just like got on so well. And I love Emma to bits. And yeah, it was just the best year ever, just having fun and living in Spain, teaching English. And I was also, I didn't mention, but I was on a student visa. I was teaching Spanish both years, or I was learning Spanish both years for 20 hours a week, which I had to do for my student visa, which if you teach English in Spain through a program, you don't have to do this because essentially you teach English through the program and you're a teaching assistant. So you're in school as like an assistant. But because I didn't apply for those programs, because both times I decided too late in the game to stay in Spain, which, you know, me last minute decisions actually, yeah, I had to do something else. So I studied Spanish again in Spain. And my Spanish got really good that year at the end of the year because I started dating a guy who didn't speak any English and he was Italian, but he lived in Spain for like 5 years. So his Spanish was perfect. And my Spanish got really good because I was like B2 level at that time. But like all my roommates were Spanish also, but their English was all perfect. And I just felt like there was only so much I could talk about via restaurants and shit. Like I needed real life combos. And so dating someone that actually didn't speak English forced me to have to progress. And also he was very supportive and kind. And so that made me like really comfortable speaking Spanish. So my Spanish got really good. Anyway, I decided to backpack Europe that summer. And then from there, I decided, you know what, my chapter in Spain is done. I think I want a change. So I decided I kind of wanted to move to Australia because Haley was Australian, Elsie was Australian. So many people I met were Aussies. And I was like, I know there's a working holiday visa. I had a few friends that were doing it and were like, come over, do that. Like, why not? So I was like, you know what, fuck it. So I decided to move home for a few months, save some money, work some random off jobs. I always nanny whenever I'm home. I love working with kids and it's easy money and makes good money. So I decided to do that, and then I decided to go off to volunteer in a hostel in Mexico for a month, where I essentially lived rent-free in paradise and met some of the coolest people ever, which I could get into all those stories at another time, but shout out Will and Alexis. I love them. They're, like, just had a little trio of us, and we just had the best time ever. We all just shared a room with like 10 people, and it was like the most absurd, disgusting bathroom ever. But we literally were never in the rooms. Like, Alexis actually got stung by a scorpion in the middle of the night in the room once because it crawled through the door and stung her. But we just had the best time ever. Like, we literally all took these, like, went to a random island where you could only sleep in hammocks one weekend. And then also, like, we would always go to Fish Shack and just get fish tacos, like, best fish tacos I've ever had, and watch sunset and just go out, drink, party together, and then also just be at the beach all the time and just co-work together. Like, I was receptionist. Will and Alexis were bartenders. And actually the first 2 weeks I was at the hostel, I didn't like anyone really because it was very cliquey. Like, it was hard to break in. But then as soon as I broke in, like, I had the time of my life with the people, and it was such a good experience, and I loved it so much. Like, still one of my highlights of all times traveling. And we just had the best time ever. Like, we were literally just degenerates and just balancing coconuts on our head all the time, doing random competitions, drinking all the time, hanging out behind the bar, doing random shit, pulling pranks, meowing at the cats, cooking dinners together. Like, I miss it so much. It was such a good time. And yeah, that was essentially that. And then I went to Hawaii with my fam for Christmas, and then I flew straight from there and moved to Australia. And I essentially lived with Haley for the first couple months I was there in Sydney until I found a place. And then I got adopted into her fam. They call me Boomerang and fourth daughter because I always come back. And did some little trips, and then decided to nanny, and my apartment got infested with maggots in Sydney, which was insane, and had some crazy experiences. I wasn't the biggest fan of living in Sydney at that point. I didn't have the best time, which again, I think it was an adjustment period. But I also came at a weird time where it was like end of summer. So like nowhere was hiring. Everyone was kind of already had their own groups. Like, it was hard to find a place, that sort of vibe. So I decided when Haley was like, come to Japan with me, I was like, say less. So I decided to go to Japan with Haley in a one-way, and then I decided to backpack Southeast Asia. I was not taking on Australian winter. Are you kidding? So I moved to, or I backpacked. We did Japan together, which was insane. Crazy stories. Almost got kicked out of a hostel. Got lice in Japan from Haley. She went to a dodgy hostel in Cairns in Australia and got lice, and then passed it on to me in Japan, and that lasted a month for me, no matter how much I took care of it, which that's another story I can get into another time. And then I decided to go over to Bali, and went over to Bali. We did the Komodo Islands tour in Indonesia. We did Lombok together. We did Gili T. Still had lice during all that time, no matter how much I freaking scrubbed my head. The Komodo Islands was insane. Shared a room with literally 35 people and shared a bed with them because it was literally just open vibe, like crazy. And then Lombok was insane. We randomly ran into a like circumcision wedding. I don't know. That's what the locals told us in Lombok. Randomly, it was like this weird celebration. Got into a moped accident in Uluwatu. Haley also went on a date with this guy from Love Island. And then the same night, I decided to go on a date with Tom, if you're listening, hi. This Aussie guy. And I was leaving for Thailand the next day at like 7 a.m. And I met up with him at 10 p.m. for like a drink. And then I was like, you should come meet me in Thailand. And then ended up doing Thailand for a bit. Did Bangkok with Haley, which Bangkok I was not the biggest fan of. It was so overstimulating. But we did that. We had such a good time. It was so fun. Got stuck in the pie hole in Pai. If you know, you know. Tipsy tubing. Almost died through the fucking suffocation. Got toe surgery in Thailand, which again, another story I can tell a long time. Because my toe got severely infected, and I also got really bad food poisoning. And then ended up having to bail on like the teaching English thing I was doing because I had to get surgery. Then did Pai, which was so fun. And then from there, I met up with said guy in PP in Thailand, and then did that with him. And then we went over to Koh Tao, did that together, and Koh Tao is gorgeous. I need to go back because I feel like I didn't properly get to experience it. And then from there, I went back home, hung out at home in San Diego and California for a bit, and then On a whim, I met this girl in Koh Tao who said Airlie Beach, and I also met someone else was really good for your 88 days in Australia, which if you want to stay a second year in Australia, you have to do 3 months of regional work / 88 days is what they call it, in hospitality or tourism in rural Australia. So I decided, why not move to the Whitsundays? And everyone's like, it's so hard to find work there. And I was like, I'm going to figure it out. Like, that's my motto. I'm going to figure it out. It's going to get figured out. Sure enough, I get there and I was hanging out at this hostel literally every day, and I just made friends with the guys that were working at the hostel. The Ollies, love all the Ollies, Noah, the original, like, it was fun. And I ended up living with Big Ollie. We call that as well, because he was like, hey, like, I actually have a room. Like, my ex moved out. Like, if you want, like, you can take my other room, like, if you're looking for a place. And I was like, sure enough. And then some jobs like randomly fell in my pocket too, which everyone says is so hard to find a job there, but I got really lucky and I ended up waitressing and also doing social media for this boat company as well. And yeah, I did waitressing and I got that quite easily, but that was a bit chaotic as well. I didn't really like it because the one manager was a bitch. But it was fun, and then just lived it up in the Whitsundays, literally drinking 24/7 because there's nothing else you can do there besides go to the lagoon or the beach. But when it's stinger season, you can't even swim in the water, and you can go on boat trips, which I did do here and there. But during the week, like, everyone just goes to the pubs, and you walk up and down the street, and everyone knows everyone. Like, it's so fun. You just walk into the local cafe, you see 5 people you know, but it's not one place like you can get with people or you can like get in drama because everyone will know your business. Like, and I learned that the hard way sometimes, and so did some of my friends. But it was just such a fun vibe. Like, everyone in the town knew each other, and it was just so fun. Like, you just walk down, hey, want to go for a drink? Yeah, let's go. Hey, you want to go to the beach? Yeah, let's go. Me and my friends dressed up for my birthday also, all as Adam Sandler, and we did a pub crawl, and it was such a fun night. And then we just like would do random challenges. Like, the group of Canadians, Jenna, we call Tom also Canadian. He was Aussie, Jenna's boyfriend, and then Dawit and Shayla. And like, we just like we played the egg game one night. We took eggs to bars and just like fucked around and did weird shit. And it was just like such a vibe. Like, the town was such a backpacker town. It was so fun. So yeah, after that, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go back to Sydney, see Haley for her birthday and hang out there for a bit. And then ended up in a chaotic situation with a guy I was seeing at the time, and stayed in Sydney for longer than I intended because of that. But then I decided to move over to Sri Lanka and spent a month there solo. Crashed out the first 2 weeks there because I was like, I can't solo travel anymore. It's a lot on my nervous system and mental health. I like was overwhelmed. But then I ended up falling in love with Sri Lanka and loved it and had such a good time volunteering in a hostel, working, vibing, surfing, chilling. I didn't really surf that much there, actually. Exploring. The locals were insane. Like, I could get into this again in more detail another time. And then I came back to Sydney because said situationship, which we don't talk about that. And then I left to go after a few months, like, to Europe and see all of my friends in Europe that I hadn't seen in 2 years. Sophia, Emily, everyone. I stayed basically 3 months in Europe, and I stayed with so many different friends. I stayed with Emily 2 weeks in Sweden. I stayed with Soph for a week in Barcelona. I stayed with Megs in Switzerland. I did a brand trip in Croatia. I was bopping around, staying with friends. I traveled around with my little brother, took him backpacking for the first time. That was so fun. And then I ended up getting adopted into a group of Aussies. Isa, Ryan, Brooke, literally funnest group ever. It was just so fun. Like, met them in Amsterdam and then ended up being in Croatia at the same time, and then ended up going to Albania with them. And then I went over to Rhodes in Greece, and then or I went to Paros in Greece, and then I met a girl who was going to Rhodes, and then they were also going to Rhodes, met up with them, and then went over to Turkey, met up with Jade, and just hung out and had fun. And yeah, and I've really realized this year also, like, solo travel is not for me anymore fully, because this decisions of figuring out where you're going to go and what you're going to do, and like just the pile up. And then also it's a shock to your nervous system when you're moving around constantly to a different place and having to start over. And also the goodbyes. Like, I feel like I've gone through that 10,000 breakups in the past 3 years, not through guys. Like, I'm not going to get into that, but through friends. Like, I can't take meeting amazing people and having these connections and then saying goodbye anymore. Constantly saying goodbye and breaking your heart over and over is like like that's the thing with solo traveling. I need some stability in friendships. Like it's so hard. So I've really realized that the past year. So I've kind of just spent the past year not even fully solo traveling, like traveling with people, or I slept on my sister's couch and my best friend's couch for a month in San Diego and just hung out with them for a month. So fun. Came back to Sydney, stayed with Haley for a bit, and then now living in my own place in Sydney and working freelance and doing social media basically full time kind of. So I'm working on that. And right now I'm just kind of working on my mindset because I feel like I want to do so many things and I self sabotage because I subconsciously don't believe I'm capable of them. So I've realized really a lot this year that the reason I'm not achieving a lot of my goals and things like that is because my subconscious beliefs with myself don't align with those goals. And so I need to do the work and believe in myself and be kind to myself and build myself up because my inner critic, you can't bully yourself into success. And that's what I really realized this year. So I'm working on a lot of different projects and I'm trying to narrow down on what it is I actually want because I love social media. I love creating. The reason I started social media was because I love making videos. I want to get more into videography, cinematography, but also I love showing the authentic aspect of social media, like less so the curated content and more so like the behind the scenes mental health struggles, whatever it may be, the realistic side of it, because I feel like it's so easy to just scroll and compare yourself to others. And I don't want to be that for someone else. I want someone to be like, oh my God, she's real. Like she's a human. Like this makes me feel so seen, or this makes me feel less alone, that sort of vibe. And yeah, and then also teaching others how I've gone about living this unconventional life that I've done. So that's kind of why I started this. And then starting this podcast as well, like I talked about at the beginning of the video, like the reason I wanted to do that. And yeah, and then also like I'm a health coach now, but essentially like I don't really know if I want to specialize in health coaching. I think I more so want to help people find their purpose and become more confident versions of themselves and take risks and whatever. And I'm just kind of navigating how I want to figure that out. So I'm not essentially setting that up until I get there. And then also doing UGC and videography, like iPhone videography. I want to get more into camera videography as well, that sort of thing, and being creative and doing social media management and building those businesses, as well as my own platform. So that's kind of all the projects and things I'm working on at the moment. But my problem is I have so many ideas and I'm trying to figure out which ones are actually ones I should go for and are aligned and I need to stick to. So yeah, that's essentially my story in a nutshell. I think this is like 40 minutes long, so I'm going to cut it soon because I'm going to cut it in like the next 2 seconds because I could yap forever and I could go into so much more detail. But I just figured I wanted to do a little, this is me story before I jump into interviewing everyone else. And I hope people enjoy this project because I just want to make others feel less alone and inspired to go and chase their dreams and do things in a different way, because growing up, I feel like I didn't have anyone like I could look up to and ask questions about travel and that were living this unconventional life or starting businesses or entrepreneurs or taking risks or doing these things. And so I want to show other people that it is possible through interviewing my friends and interviewing people I meet that have done so, and just sharing their own inspiring stories and funny travel stories and chaos and all the good shit, like I'd unfiltered. Sorry, you're not getting PG-13. Actually, I won't share some stories that aren't PG-13, but I'm talking about cussing and shit. I'm going to do that anyway. So yeah, that's the overall. And I just figured I wanted to share my own story. So stay tuned for episode 2 of Diary of a Backpacker. I really want to eat this, where I interviewed my friends Emily and Elsie. That was the first ever episode I filmed a year ago. And I talked myself out of filming because I was like, oh my God, it's going to take me so long to edit. It needs to be edited perfectly. How do I edit this? I can't edit long form content. And then I started asking people and I realized it's a lot easier than I thought. And so I've finally fucking done it. But now I haven't posted for months because I've been like, I need to wait till I post till it's perfect, till I have the short form videos edited, till I have branding, till I have this, till I have this. But if you wait for things to start and be perfect and conditions to be perfect and to feel ready, you're going to wait forever and things aren't going to happen. So sometimes you just have to rip off the Band-Aid, set a date, and make things happen and go with the flow and figure it out as you go. So that's what I did. I randomly was sitting in my bed and I was like, December 15th. That sounds good. We'll pick that as the start date for the podcast. So yeah, that's that. That's when this is launching. And do I know how I'm doing that? No, because I still have to edit a bunch of videos in short form content, but we're making it happen, guys. We're making it happen this year. Okay. So tune in for the next episode and thank you for listening to me yap my fucking ears off. And I would say love you, but I don't know you like that. Hope you have a good day. that was like really lame. I hope you have an amazing day. I'm gonna end this because I'm gonna give myself the ultimate ick and I'm gonna want to swallow bleach. So, anyways, ciao. Um, what am I doing with my hair? I think I'm fucking Summer Rae. Um,